An electronics manufacturer in Tokyo. Their drawing tablets are known around the world. Preserved at the headquarters is this.
こちらです。
The company's first hit product, a drawing tablet developed in 1987. Its key feature? It was the first drawing tablet with a wireless pen.
When professionals are drawing or designing things, they want to have the freedom to move without being restricted by a cord. We thought a creative tool should have as few restrictions as possible, so we focused on making it wireless.
Our story begins back in 1983. Personal computers or word processors were not widely available. At the time, printed text was most commonly created using these Japanese typewriters. The typist chose from over 1,000 characters, one at a time. A model came out then that featured a wired pen to select characters. This device caught the eye of a small startup. They began prototyping a device with a wireless pen. The motivation came from an employee who had worked for a newspaper. He knew the cord got in the way when selecting characters on the typewriter. He believed there would be a market for a new type of device that had a wireless pen. Yamamoto Sadao had joined the company during that time. Here's how he remembers the start of development.
The cord was attached to the top of the pen, so it would pull as you moved around. There was resistance when you tried to put the pen where you wanted. All of us were very passionate about creating a new kind of pen.
And so, development commenced on the wireless pen and tablet. The team dove headfirst into creating a prototype. The first step in creating a wireless pen was to find a different way to supply power to it. The team turned their attention to these rechargeable batteries. One would be built into the pen to provide power. However, they soon had another issue to solve. How would the position of the pen be determined? On the Japanese typewriter, the tip of the pen was used to touch the desired character. How could the position of the pen tip be communicated without a wire?
You need to determine the coordinates of the pen. On a wired pen, not only is power sent over the cable, but also positional data.
The developers continued to test different approaches. What they came up with was this pen with a built-in magnet. The idea was to use it on a tablet with coils built under the surface. The coils would respond to the pen's magnet, and precise coordinates could be determined by the pen. But just before they were about to celebrate success, yet another issue presented itself. How would the pen and the main unit communicate with each other? The Japanese typewriter had over 1,000 characters to choose from. Once the pen selected the character, it needed a way to send that position to the main unit. What ways were there to send data wirelessly from the pen? As the team searched desperately for options, a device caught their attention. The TV remote. It was wireless, and it could tell the TV which channel you selected. As for the technology, they determined it was infrared communication. Straight away, the team built an infrared transmitter into the pen. But unexpected trouble arose just as quickly. They found that fluorescent lights interfered with the infrared transmission, resulting in frequent errors. Also, floppy disks, a form of magnetic data storage, were common at the time. When exposed to magnets, like those in the pen, there was the risk of data loss.
Credit cards have a strip on them which contains the credit card number and other data. If you rub a magnet on that hard enough, that data can be erased. The permanent magnet in the pen could damage the data on a floppy disk in the same way.
Was a wireless pen just a hopeless fantasy? The team members were in a slump. Could the team make a new prototype that didn't use magnets? One member had an idea. It involved tuning forks, commonly used with musical instruments. These objects make use of a certain phenomenon. When you have two identical tuning forks next to each other, if you strike one, and then stop it, the other continues ringing without being touched. It's called resonance. Could the wireless pen make use of this? The developers built new specialized circuitry into the pen. The tablet would send out a certain frequency. And through resonance, the pen's circuitry would respond, enabling its position to be determined.
Using the same principle as a tuning fork, the circuit inside the pen sends out the same resonant frequency it receives. Then the tablet takes the signal from the pen and determines the position of the pen's tip.
The team created and tested many prototypes until finally, drawing on the tablet's surface, produced smooth lines on the screen. In addition, one of the team members with an interest in calligraphy had an idea. What if you could adjust the thickness of the line like you would with a brush? Calligraphy, the art of beautiful writing. The calligrapher has full command of the brush, making subtle adjustments to line thickness. Would something like this be possible with a wireless pen? The developers studied the movement of the brushes. They noted how the height of the tip of the brush was adjusted with pressure. When pressed harder, the brush tip sinks lower and the line comes out thicker. With a light touch, the tip remains high and the lines are thin. With this in mind, a sensor to detect the height of the pen was added. Much testing was done to complete the prototype.
By allowing the pen's resonating circuitry to move up and down, the frequency of the signal changes. The idea was to use that change in frequency to change the thickness of the lines. We thought that would make it closer to traditional tools.
And so, in 1987, after 4 years in development, the world's first tablet with wireless pen was complete. How would the new device be brought to market? They decided to announce the product at an annual electronics conference in the greater Tokyo area. A tablet with a wireless pen that you could use similarly to a real pen. The team did their best to show off the device, but there wasn't much interest.
Not many people bought in. I heard that there were attendees who seemed interested, but it wasn't a sale. They just thought it was something neat.
After all that work, the product wasn't selling. But then, as the members were feeling down, they got a phone call. A world-famous American production company wanted to talk. They'd heard about the tablet, and they were interested. A meeting was quickly arranged. The team brought a tablet to demonstrate. The men from the production company said they wanted to create their next animated feature using computers. They asked for a demonstration of the tablet.
The company was a real pioneer. If you make a single mistake on a hand drawing, it can be very difficult to fix. But with a computer, that becomes very simple. I think that was a big reason why they were interested.
If they could prove the device worked here, there would be great demand for their product. Nervously, one of the team members flicked the switch on. First, they sketched around on the tablet's surface. With no cord to get in the way, movement was uninhibited. Up on the screen, the lines were smoothly reproduced. But this was to be used for animation. That demanded control over minute detail and line thickness. The team member held his breath and pushed the pen harder. And, just like a brush, the line got thicker. With even more force. An even thicker line. They showed off just how much control you had.
It was a great feeling to get to this point. Our tablet let you adjust pressure and draw intuitively. At a time when there was great interest in drawing on a computer, we were able to achieve recognition.
Having demonstrated the value of their product, the famous production company decided to adopt their drawing tablets. The tablets soon made a name for themselves in the American film industry and became used in a variety of applications around the world.